Who's showing? Are you showing? Are you, Rich?
Channel. And see, this week's guest on Inspirational Invitational episode 9 is Donato, the running guru. And
yeah. Hello, Rich. Thank you.
How have you been, mate?
I've been relaxing. I've been relaxing and resting and slowly getting back into the running. So yeah, thank you very much, Rich. I'm feeling good. Back at work, back into the routine.
That's good. That's good news, because I know you've had a bit of a cough and stuff recently. But
yeah,
talk a little bit about what got you into running and how your running journey began for anybody who, from my subscribers that's not seen you or doesn't.
Yeah. Oh. Sure. I mean, it's not very glamorous. I didn't take up running for any a lot of reasons that people put down for, but it was one of these random posts on social media, and it would have been coming up to, I think, in June, July of 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. And a friend of mine who has is chairman of a charity, and I've known him for many years, posted a random message on social media saying, anybody want to run the Birmingham half marathon for our charity? So, and at the time I was working on a project, and still am, a 5-year project of mine, about helping people to be more active, because I do believe that being active in some way, whether it be mentally or physically, is a great way of helping our longevity. So I, in a silly way, sent him a message, says, I'll be up for that, but I've never ran before, so I don't know whether I could do it. And he kindly, said, don't be too stressed about it. So that's how it started. But I remember vividly going out for my first run, and I think I lasted 5 minutes, and I nearly had, I basically almost collapsed in a park. With strong chest pains and ankles aching, knees aching. I just felt like I was going to die. And this lovely lady came up to me and says, "Are you all right, love?" And that was my bad attempt at a lady's accent. But, and I wasn't in a good way. And I sort of walked back. And I said, that was just 5 minutes. I messaged John and I said, look, I don't think this running larky is for me. I'm just hurting all over. And it brought back memories, in previous and childhood. And I have had issues with my limbs and legs and all sorts. And I thought, well, this isn't really for me, so I'll just do something else for him. He sent me a message back, and I can't remember the exact book or story, but apparently people can walk half marathons. So I thought, well, if I don't have to run, then yeah, I'll be up for walking it, maybe. So I then started to progress a particular plan, sort of like a walk run. And within a number of weeks of persisting through the pain and hurt, it sort of stopped hurting. Well, not stopped, but it diminished. And as I then decided to, I then downloaded a proper training plan from the Great Run Series, because the Birmingham Half Marathon is organised by the Great Run Series, the ones that do the Great North Run. And they had this lovely training plan, downloaded it onto my phone, and it would say, Monday or Tuesday, 10 minutes run. It never said any pace, any distance. It just said go out for 10 minutes. So I followed this, and I think it was three times a week I used to go out, and I'd just go out for a run. No Garmin, no pace, no Strava. I never bought a Garmin for, probably 9 months. Didn't even know what Strava was. Still don't really know what Strava is. But anyway, that's a joking aside. So apparently, if you haven't recorded it on Strava, it didn't happen. So I'm not really here. This is a figment of your imagination, and haven't run any runs. But so I just slowly got into it, and I think I'd done the Newham 10K, and that came a bit early because I was working in London at the time, and it was a fabulous race. I don't know whether it still goes on, because some of these races come and go, and it was around the Olympic Park, and I said to myself, oh, wouldn't it be good if I could run this 10K in under an hour? And again, as I say, I had no Garmin, no nothing. I was just out running, minding my own thing, and I got in just under an hour. And I was really pleased with that, but I couldn't walk properly for about a week. So I think I really done myself in, and but carried on with the training plan. And by the October of, I think I had 4 months of training, with a few mishaps. I won't go into all those details, but, a few health issues, shall we say, like ending up in hospital with a suspect heart attack and so on. Nothing major, really. And I got to the Birmingham half marathon, and a friend of mine who'd, I think similar to yourself, Rich, had ran one of the Olympic legs with the Olympic torch. So I spoke with John for the charity. I said, a friend of mine's offered me to carry this Olympic torch for the half marathon. And he said, well, it's up to you. And we thought it'd be a good little PR thing. And we got lots of coverage. And I think I became the pin-up boy on the Birmingham marathon because I used my picture carrying the Olympic torch. But boy, I wish I hadn't been carrying that thing, because it's big, isn't it? And it's heavy. And the Birmingham half marathon at that time finishes with a 2-mile climb. And but I was so pleased to have finished it. I thought, that's it, I'm done. Raised the money. I think I raised £500-600 for the half marathon, and it was good fun. But that was me done. Yeah, remember, I have no Garmin's, no Strava. I wasn't into running, and that was it. I finished, done my half marathon. Thank you very much. And but that's how it started. And then when I got back to my office in London, and people heard that the time I ran it in, and they said, oh, you should do a full marathon. And my answer to them, I'll keep it censored because it's still before 9 o'clock. I said, oh, very, very not. I'd be wanting to run a marathon, because I almost didn't feel very well at the end of the half marathon. So it was painful and it hurt. And I'm thinking, how the hell can I do twice that distance? It was unimaginable to me, you know. So, but eventually, after a couple of months of cajoling, I was persuaded to run the Brighton Marathon. And again, it was just one marathon. I even went out in February to buy a little GoPro to film some of my training runs, so that my kids could see that I went out training. And then I would film the marathon as proof that I'd done a marathon, and then that's it, finished. And so I ran that Brighton Marathon, which would have been 2 years ago last month. And as I say, the rest is history. I posted up on YouTube, and I was just astonished at response. I was pleasantly surprised at the time I came in. I never in a million years, because as I say, I don't do goals or set anything. I just go out and run, and if I feel good, I run good. If I don't feel good, I don't run good. That's how I run. And it felt really good. If you've seen that initial vlog, I think up to about mile 13, 14, everything was going really well. And then everything started falling off. And I think the last 6 miles of that Bright Marathon was, you know, thank you to all those people shouting at me, cheering at me, throwing jelly babies at me. I was taking it all on. I was literally hanging on for dear life to finish. And but I finished, felt really good. And yeah, and that was it. And I ran with the Kenner brothers. We had a great time. If you see at the end of the vlog, we're dressed like a couple of chickens in foil getting cooked, because it was a hot day, but really enjoyable. And it's one of those races that I would definitely recommend. Brighton Marathon is brilliant, and the organisation is great. Had a good time, but that was me done, wasn't it? Or so I thought. And it did hurt. There's no denying. I mean, anyone who runs marathons, doesn't matter how much training you do, when you're running for a certain distance, it's not totally pain-free, shall we say. But in a nutshell, that's how it sort of started, and has continued ever since. So that was 2 years ago, and there's been a few more races since.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because you know, I'm sure there's people who pick up either your channel or my channel, and they see us running marathons, and they may be at the start of their running journey, and they may wonder, like, how on earth do these people do this? But we all started somewhere. And what you've described there, like, I remember when I ran my first 10K, and I was told by a friend, I was raising for charity at the time, said, if you can do it in less than an hour, I'll double my donation. And I was 1 hour and 18 seconds. And and then I eventually did a half marathon, you know, and I thought, same as you, how on earth does anybody run a marathon? That was ridiculously hard. And
yeah.
But it's all progression, isn't it? It's naturally over time you progress, your fitness improves, your strength improves, and you can get there. You know, it's not impossible. Right. It's just hard work.
It's
hard. I think that's really important for anyone at the start of their journey.
I think the key thing, I mean, only the other day I was speaking with some friends who were doing triathlons, and they're doing like the short ones, and they were saying they don't understand how someone can do a full Ironman, you know, which for those who don't know, 2 mile swim, 100-mile bike ride, and then you finish with a full marathon at the end. To me, that just sounds really crazy. But I know that if people do the right training and build their bodies up, it takes time. But I do feel for a lot of people who take up running, and for some reason just go straight to a marathon. They cut everything out and they just do this 12-week plan wanting to run a marathon. And I do feel for them, because it must be extremely difficult to do that just from
it is a big leap. It's a big leap.
Yeah.
You've got to build up over, I'd say 12 months minimum. You need to build up.
Exactly. They say it takes about 2 to 3 years to get up to a certain, strength and condition to get round in reasonable, not the time, but in terms of how your body feels, that it feels okay for most of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's introduced you a bit to any viewers that don't know you. And I'm just going to check the live chat, see who we've got in. So here we are, Running is here. Hellbringer X is here, Lady of Bucks is here, and John
there's people there.
So far. And we've already got 2 questions for you. So
hello, everyone. Oh, no.
Love this. People got questions in early. It saves me a job. I don't have to think.
They don't want to know my inside leg measurements, that's fine.
But yeah, so here we are running, which is Chris. He's saying, you've done a few marathons now. Which has been your favourite and why?
Which has been my favourite? Well, in terms of the marathons I've done, there's obviously Brighton was the first one, then was Frankfurt in Germany, and then I think I ran Brighton again, and then after that was it would have been New York, and then Boston, and then London. So I've done 3 of the majors. I've got to say that both Brighton and Frankfurt, I think they're both rated as the second after the 2 majors. So Brighton is second after London Marathon, and Frankfurt is second after Berlin. They're all, like some celebs, they're all my favourite. But the one that would stand out, if you're ever going to do, and everyone's person, everyone has different opinions, and each one of them I would say are great races in their own way. And obviously, I could say that Frankfurt is my favourite because that's where I ran my fastest. But that wouldn't be fair to the majors, because when you go to a race and there's people you've never met in your life, and I mean, at New York, there was 2.5 million supporters, 2.5 million supporters along the whole route. There's a small section in New York where I don't know the exact ins and outs, and I don't want to offend people or whatever, but there's some kind of rule, whatever, that there's people not cheering in that 1 mile section. I think the residential area, they've got different ethnic groups. But after that section finishes, the people from that area, they're supporting in there. But 2.5 million spectators. Boston is the toughest of all the routes. It's hilly, up and down. It just doesn't stop. It's incessant. And London is London. It's a fantastic city, and you get to see all the landmarks. But for me, it's difficult to pin on one. I would say, in terms of razzmatazz, in terms of all that jazz and the crowd, the people, and just the sheer size of it and how they organize, and it has to be New York. By, there's 51,000 runners there was when I was running, and how they get everybody on that one bridge is, I don't understand how the logistics of how they get all those people there. Yes, we're left waiting at Staten Island for a while, but there's food and drink, and it's all free. You don't have to pay for any of the food and drink. So there's bagel stands, coffees. But New York, I mean, when I finished, it was raining when I finished, and there was thousands of people I'd never met in my life coming up to me, members of the public, because I had my poncho on, were just saying congratulations, total strangers. I've never experienced anything like it, and it was so special. Yes, it was. My daughter was over there with me and some friends, and it was my daughter's birthday, so it was more of a party thing. But it stood out for me because weeks before I couldn't walk, and I really thought I was out of that race. And somehow, even the day before, I was hurting, and I said to my daughter, I'll go to the start and I'll see how I feel. Watch on the tracker if I'm going round. If not, I'll find a way of getting to meet them. But once I was with the crowd and with the people, it's almost like the pain disappeared, and I ran the race of my life. It's a tough course. I mean, people think New York's flat, but there's 5 big bridges, and there's a lot of hills. There's a lot of hills, so it's not a flat course. If you want to run a flat course like Frankfurt, Berlin, great, but it's just the whole razzmatazz. So I've got to say New York, but also Boston, London, Frankfurt, Brighton, they're all good in their own way, but the one stand out for lots of reasons just has to be New York. I was just overwhelmed. I mean,
yeah,
even now I feel like, and I don't know if there's any New Yorkers here, but you put on a real big party. But it's like everybody, because you're running through residential areas, everybody of all the areas come out to support. And it's the same in Boston. You run from they drive you out 26 miles away, and then you run back to Boston. Everybody in those areas, you're running through residential areas, they all come out. And maybe it's an American thing, you know, that it's not so, you know, in Britain we're maybe a bit more reserved, but everybody's shouting and screaming at you all the time. I don't know how they don't lose it. Well, they probably do lose their voices, but there was people coming at me and running with me with placards, and I'm thinking, who are you? You know, and it's the people, the way they cheer. As I say, I've never seen anything like. I mean, I know Manhattan and the area is very populated, but to have 2.5 million spectators come out, you know, it's seen as the biggest single sporting event in the world. And I can see why, having experienced it firsthand. The expo, everybody, I mean, obviously, as you know, I bumped into Paula Radcliffe and the winner, Shalane Flanagan. Who I didn't know who she was, but she did have a hat on and glasses. It's only because Paula Radcliffe says, "Oh, this is Shalane Flanagan." I mean, "Oh, nice to meet you, Shalane." And I think I was a lucky mascot because she went on to win the following day. First American to win in 30 years, I think. But it's just incredible. And then the after party, I got invited to this after party, and everybody there, as I say, I've never met any of these people. It was just a random invite. I just turned up, and everybody was so welcoming. It was just unreal. And the days after, even my daughter and my friends commented. They said, why do these people keep coming up to you and shaking your hand? And I said, I don't know. You know, maybe they think they know I'm the running guru. But it was a bit bizarre how many people did recognize me. And I didn't have any, you know, this is wandering around Manhattan. You know, I didn't go around with a big sign saying, hello, I'm the guru or whatever. But it just seemed, you know, when you got that amount of people there, that clearly people watch my channel, your channel, and recognize us. But New York, I mean, it's so good they named it twice. I would have loved to have gone again this year because I got another qualifying time, but I can't sell my kids again. It's very expensive, these races, and to do these races like London, Boston, for me, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to run a marathon, period. You know, even if there's no spectators there and you're just running with other runners, and just that experience alone, it's a privilege to be able to have the fitness and ability to run these races. But yeah, when you can share it with so many people, I mean, New York, I mean, I wish I could have filmed more of it, but it was hurting. You know, I mean, I think there was a bit of mile 21 where I did say on camera, this is hurting so much, you won't see me till I finish. And you didn't see me till I finished. It was tough, but because of the injury coming back, and I hadn't done any running for 4 weeks beforehand, it was beginning to take its toll. But I still came in with another qualifying time, and they kept pestering me. Oh, well, you haven't registered yet. I says, yeah, I can't afford it, mate. If you want to pay my entry fee and pay for me flights and hotel, yeah, I'll come along to New York every year, just like to London and Boston every year. But yeah, so my favorite, New York.
Sorry, she's saying, I'm going for the 6-star medal, and which major do you want to tick off next?
Well, to be honest, I didn't really have much of a thing about this 6-star. All I knew is there was other marathons, and they're called marathon majors. I didn't know about this 6-star medal, but yeah, I guess having seen the ones that are on the list, again, I think I'd have to remortgage my house to do the rest, especially the one in Tokyo.
Well, you've got Tokyo, Chicago, and Berlin left, haven't you?
That's right. That's right. So if anybody's watching and wants to offer me flights and accommodation to those 3 places, that would be lovely. And I mean, I'm an old geezer. I'm coming up to retire soon, and money is quite short. Get the violins out. But the next one is Chicago. I managed to sell off my last child, and I've paid for Chicago. Well, I had to pay for it last year, because that's when with these majors, you have to book ages in advance, or when the ballot give you the places. But again, with Chicago, I found it quite different to the others, where whilst they have a ballot, they have qualifying times as well. And the qualifying times are quite generous. They're not as strict. They're not as strict as London. not as strict as Boston or New York, but there's still qualifying times. And I think 25% of the entrants to Chicago are all qualifiers, so time qualifiers. So, you know, there's a good mix, and then there's ballot people as well. So Chicago is the next one, which is October. I think it's beginning of October. But I'd happily run Berlin in September if someone gives me a place, if I've still got the fitness. And then I'll happily do Tokyo in whenever it is, March next year. If someone wants to pay for the flights and everything, I'll go over and do that one as well. And that will be the 6 stars then, wouldn't it? So I don't know when. I think
the year to go to Tokyo has got to be 2020, because that's the year they're hosting the Olympics, and I'm sure it will be the marathon major that it always is, but I'm sure they'll give it that extra bit of something.
And that's when the whole planet will want to go to Tokyo. So I'll be fat chance of getting a lottery place out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get real now. Yeah, it's a ballot place, and everybody will thinking exactly what you've just said. And I don't think some of these majors, they allow you to defer anyway. It's not like London. You know, these ones, when you get the place, you have to go. You can't defer. So if you're injured, tough, you've lost your place. I think maybe some people want to comment, but my understanding is that a lot of them, on the terms and conditions, you can't defer. So but yeah, I'd love to go to Tokyo. Why not do it next year and 2020? Yeah. Well,
you've mentioned your retirement there, and Jeff Chisnell's saying he's expecting you to go to Cape Town at some point before you retire.
I think when I've retired, I can go to Cape Town, because it can be very soon. No, I'd love to go to Cape Town, and I know I've seen you race the Comrades race, but there's the Two Oceans Marathon. I'd love to go and do that. It just looks amazing, and although my kids have grown up and moved, they often said they'd like to go to South Africa. So it'd be good to. I've never been to South Africa. I've been to many African countries, but I've never been to South Africa. I think the furthest south I've been is Kenya, but I've not been to South Africa itself. But yeah, Jeffrey Chisnell, I definitely want to come over there. So if you want to pay for my flight and accommodation,
there's a common theme here in this.
Yeah, there's a bit of a theme. You know, it's cash strapped here, but thankfully, you know, I do have a good job, and I'm able to pay for a lot of these. But I can understand for a lot of people, as I say, it's a privilege in many ways to do a lot of these races, but it does take a lot of spondulos.
So Russell King wants to know, how many times a week do you train?
How many times a week do I train? Good question. It depends what kind of training you mean. Do you mean running or going out doing other physical activities?
Well, you could maybe link this into another question as well, because John Hearnshaw is asking about, do you incorporate strength training into your routine, and what sort of you do? Yeah. So you can maybe talk about how many strength.
If I go through my my weekly routine, so Monday is normally a rest day for me. Whilst I say it's rest, it might have a bit of strength training in the gym. Tuesday is a run day, and normally I'll do speed sessions on that. Wednesday is another rest day, but I might do a little bit of cycling. I mean, now I cycle into work or walk, so you know that in itself every day is a bit of cross training. Thursday, a bit of running as well. Friday, rest day, absolutely nothing. And then depending on where I am, Saturday or Sunday, I'll do a long run. And the long run will be slow and easy always. Occasionally, I might incorporate a bit of marathon pace in the long runs for short periods, but really short periods. But that's all I do. So essentially, it's three runs a week. I might do 4. Then on the Wednesday or a Friday, I might put in an easy half an hour. So you know, my mileage is very low, very, very low. So for me, that's what works for me. High mileage doesn't work for me. You know, I'll soon be coming up to 60. I don't really think doing high mileage at my age is a good idea, because I'd like a bit of longevity. So and it's worked for me. You know, if for my age, I'm running at good speeds. So I do mix in a bit of strength training, but that's only since the last one, because I was getting so many injuries. Someone said, "Oh, you need to do some strength training." I think the speeds I was running at, I don't think my body was strong enough to consistently run at that speed. So it needed a bit of strengthening. And so I've been doing a bit of that. I occasionally throw in some swimming, depending where I am, because our work takes me all over the place. So if I can get to a swimming pool, I might do that on a Wednesday or a Friday. But as I say, the running bits are normally Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and it depends on how much time. So I'll run, say, for half an hour, doing some sprints, and then on a Thursday I might run for 20 minutes doing some tempo, and then the short run slowly progresses from, say, an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5, tops 3 hours. I don't go over 3 hours on a long run.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a minute ago doing marathon pace within a long run. I think if you're doing your first marathon, just do your long runs slow and easy.
Yeah.
You may be on your second marathon, you're building up your runs and you do your long, slow, easy runs.
Yeah.
Later on in the plan, you might want to put in some sections of marathon pace. And then you think, well, what's marathon pace? It depends what time you want to run. And your marathon doesn't.
Yeah.
We're looking at 3 hours. You want to do 6:52 a mile. You want to practice that pace in a long run, don't you? So maybe do 10 miles easy, put a bit of fatigue in your legs, and then hit that pace.
That's right. I mean, if I go back, it's exactly that, Rich. I mean, it's different for different people. For a first marathon, I mean, my first marathon, I was literally, I think I was working in London at the time, and I had this little route, and it was literally 45 minutes running at what felt comfortable on the Tuesday, another 45 minutes of what felt comfortable on a Thursday, and then a long run of what I thought felt comfortable for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. That was it. I didn't do anything. There was no tempos. There was no hill sprints. There was none of this that we seem to read everywhere that people have to do. I totally disagree with that. You don't have to do any of that for a first marathon. You just have to have a reasonable level of fitness and ability and confidence in yourself that you can get round. All that other stuff is, I mean, I did slip into, say, marathon pace. I've done 6 marathons now, so that's why I mentioned it. But as a beginner, I didn't even know what my marathon pace was. Yeah. So it's something that's conversational and feels comfortable. And I mean,
when somebody first said to me about doing a negative split, I thought they were talking about a 0-calorie banana dessert. I didn't know what it was.
I thought it was a banana split. Yeah. And I mean, people, don't even get me on my soapbox about negative splits. But I saw that the guy from, what's his name? American marathon runner. He ran the Prague Marathon, and the commentary was his second half was slower than the first half, and he won the race. So if you apply the theory of negative splits for professionals, it doesn't apply. And I think I read a blog that it is a bit of a misnomer, and I think some coaches just use it as some kind of PR, whatever. But and I'm sure they'll come back and give us the science about it. But most people will run the first half of a marathon quicker than the second half.
Yeah, and that's natural because you just get knackered and you slow down, don't you?
So anyone who runs a negative split on the marathon, I sort of question, were they walking for the first half?
Yeah, were they pushing themselves hard enough in the early part of the race?
I say about going easy, but there's easy and then there's easy. So it's horses for courses, but whatever you feel good at.
Okay, just checking for questions again then. So we've got John saying thank you for answering his question. Russell's saying the same, and he says he loves both our channels. Thank you very much, Russell.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Jeffrey says, haha, negative splits. I'm glad somebody appreciates my dad jokes. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, so we got no more questions in there. So, well, I am going to selfishly ask you one question because you mentioned you did Frankfurt before, and I am doing Frankfurt in October. So what can I expect at Frankfurt?
What can you expect at Frankfurt? Apart from pretzels and apart from, it is an amazing city. Frankfurt is, I don't know if people know, I think it's the financial capital for Germany. But as a city, I mean, I was there for a long weekend. The race itself it's well organized, it's well drilled. So depending on what time you're predicted, you'll be put into a wave that is of that ability. And what I found is that there was, when I was running, if you watch me vlog, it just seemed so, it was just great. I can't really describe it. I mean, it was only my second marathon, so I did feel a bit overwhelmed because I was there at the race and I'd done particular training, and I was told by a coach that go to the front of that second wave. So I was in the second wave. I says, well, I'm not fast enough. He says, no. based on your training, you'd be fine. So I'm standing there with my fanny pack on the front and all my gear and a GoPro, looking very amateur, and I'm surrounded by people with national jerseys and everything, and they're all pumped up and they're all, and I'm thinking, I feel a bit out of place here. But as soon as the race started, everybody's just in the flow, and we were all like running together because we were all putting the right waves. So all I can say is it's a well-organized race. The start and finish is at the same place, so you don't have to faff around going to the start or finish or whatever. And the finish itself is, you finish in it's a bit like a disco, and flashing lights and everything. It's a real razzmatazz. But I've got to say that most of the course, because you're running through downtown Frankfurt, as the Americans might say, there's a good crowd supporting in the central city area. It's a bit sparse going out to some of the places, but it's a very flat course, and a lot of people get their Boston qualifying times there, their personal best times there. So it's big enough for you to enjoy it with people, but it's small enough not to get crowded, because I found that of all the marathon majors, you do get crowded with people, whereas at Frankfurt it spread out pretty quickly. It's a bit crowded for the first 5 or 6 kilometers because you're going through the narrow streets, but it's a great race, and hopefully the weather will be kind for you and it'll be the right temperature. But I had a fabulous time, and then as soon as I finished, there's basically as much beer and food and stuff that you can eat and drink if you want at the end. Personally, I don't take alcohol because it just dehydrates me and I'll probably collapse, and we've seen what happens when you're running in hot weather and you're dehydrated. So I think too much of the alcohol accentuates that, but it's fantastic. I mean, I loved it. It was a nice medal, and bizarrely enough, I think my medal got rusted or lost, and I tweeted the organizers, and bless them, they sent me a replacement for free. So
oh, wow.
I can only say good things. And the expo, obviously it's not as big as the majors, but it's a great little thing. I think I got to meet, as often I do, is some of the celebs over in Germany. I can't speak any German, but I vaguely recognized them, and they were happy to chat with me on the channel. But it's great. There's a lot to see. It's a nice old city as well. So as well as being a model financial area, there's a lot to do, a bit of sightseeing. So I don't know if you'll have time for that. But as a race, it's extremely well organized. And they're very strict on the what do you call them, the corrals that you go in. So your bib number will have your number. So they're very strict that people with the wrong numbers don't go into the corrals. So you should be with groups of people running at the pace you've said you want to race at. And I think that often helps. I certainly found that in Boston. I was running with the same people literally all the way around, because we're all put in the group in who we're supposed to be running with. So, and that often helps, doesn't it, when you're running with people at your same pace?
Yeah,
it makes it a lot easier.
I think sometimes
when you
people
can chat with them, and
I think sometimes people fib, don't they, because they want to get a bit further forward or something and start a bit quicker, but they're only going to detriment their own race, because they'll get pulled along with faster people going much quicker than they've trained for. So
that's right. And then all of a sudden at mile 16 or 18 or whenever it is, mile 20, something happens.
Exactly. Right, so I've got a couple more questions very quickly because we are getting to the end here. So Lady of Bucks, how many pairs of glasses do you own? She loves them.
I think I've got about 6. I've not got them all here where I'm residing for the couple of few days here. But I think there was one vlog. If you go back to when I started, I did start some weekly ones, but now it's just as and when I'll get time depending on where I am. I think I went through 5 in one vlog, but that was a bit of a fun joke thing at the time. So yeah, I mean these ones were freebies I got from who's this? Tom, I think this one was. I got some from CEP at Boston. So yeah, they're just freebie glasses that I pick up, and but yeah, it's good for running out. It's like right now where I am at the moment. I'm on the Isle of Man right now, and it's beautiful sunshine. So it's great for when you're going out running and just to keep the sun off.
Cool. Okay, just a couple more questions to fire through. So the running allergist is in. Hello, how are you doing? He says, will we be seeing Marco again?
Who's that? The running allergist?
Yeah.
Hey, I say, Marco, are we going? Who's Marco?
If you don't know who Marco is, Donato does a spoof character on his channel called Marco. It's hilarious.
Do you know what, Rich? And thank you for that question. I've lost count of how many people who met me at races. When's Marco coming back? And do you know what? If I had the time, I'd probably produce two or three of those every day because I got so much content. And it's more of a Mickey take of myself and what I was like. But it's you know, for me with running, I don't, as you probably gather, I don't really take it that seriously. It's a fun thing. I want to enjoy it. And the Marco, who knows when he'll be back? But it's just having the time, and because it does take, I mean, that one does actually take time to produce and put together and then do the narrative and so on. But I've got so much content, you know, maybe I should take it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. What do you think? I don't know how you
give it a whirl. Well, Jeff seems to approve. He loves the accent that you just did to demonstrate Marco.
Yes, show. Let's go, Marco. I've given it away now. Who's doing the narrative?
Oh no, that's it. It's all blown out of the water now.
The cat is out the bag. I'm glad people do like it. I mean, a lot of it. The reason why I don't talk on it is because I'm laughing all the way through. So it's just silent movie, and that works. So I can blank out all the laughs and chuckles. But it's quite a challenge with no cameraman, no editor, no anything. I've got to do the whole thing, and you know, to produce 60 seconds worth takes quite a while to
absolutely. Yeah, I think people who operate a YouTube channel will appreciate what you're saying there. You know, most of us are a one-man band or a one-woman band, and we just make these videos ourselves. We don't have a makeup department or an editing department or anything like that.
Or maybe if the BBC or CNBC, some American channel, would like to take it on, maybe they would commission me on some new running channel. Anyway, sorry.
That's all right, mate.
Highly delightful, yes.
So just a bit late in the day, we've got Lean Warrior Lifestyle. John Bridger is in, and Clean Coach Katie. How you doing?
Hello, Katie.
And John has actually asked, would you consider running a trail marathon? And if just before you answer that, sorry, if you've got any more questions, fire them in because we're going to wind up soon. Because Donato is an old age pension. He needs to go to bed.
I got to get my Zimmer out. You know? It's long past my bedtime. I sit on a joking side. I don't know if people follow Dan Whitehead, but I'm normally in bed similar to him. He's a young lad, whatever. I think he's in bed by 8. I'm normally in bed by 8, half 8, because I normally have a 5 a.m. start. So, but no, joking aside, but yeah, what was the question? A trail marathon? Yeah, I would love to do one. I mean, some of my training runs are not all on footpaths and roads. Some of it sometimes is on little mini trails. I mean, if you've watched my walk on the wild side in the Lickey Hills, that was a vlog I done the other week, where I am resident, if I'm ever home apart from working. There's some fantastic countryside, some great trails. But yeah, one day I might do a trail marathon. But obviously, it's at the moment for me is I'm trying to build up my strength. And again, I think people who do trail marathons, it takes a certain level of skill and ability to be able to run on those trails. I think it's sometimes more challenging than running on tarmac, although some people say that tarmac's more challenging. But I would say going up hills and down hills is much tougher than running on a flat plain road. That's just my view. If people want to comment on that, they can go ahead. But maybe one day I'll do a trail marathon. If you've got any suggestions as to which trail marathons I should do, maybe somewhere in South Africa, maybe.
Yeah.
But, or some other country, you know. But yeah, there's plenty of places. Ideally, not in the rain and mud. Yeah.
Okay. Right, last question then is from Clean Coach Katie. So she wants to know what races and challenges or targets have you got coming up after London and Boston?
The next A race is, obviously I've done the Birmingham 10K the other Sunday. Doesn't time fly? Was it last Sunday or the Sunday before? But it was a very hot day, so it would have been nice to go out for a PB, but it was over 23 degrees, so I just played it sensibly and jogged it out, and it was a great race, well organized. But my next A race is the Chicago Marathon, beginning of October. So I'll be starting sometime, I think June the proper training plan. So at the moment, I'm just doing things, keeping it ticking over. I might have a couple of halves. I might be announcing. I might be doing a triathlon actually in the summer, but a different kind of triathlon. So once I've put that all together, I'll put it out on my YouTubes. It won't involve swimming. It's a different kind of triathlon. I don't really like swimming, and I still haven't got round of how people come out of the water with the suit and they keep the same suit and then get on a bike, and then the same suit they do a run. I mean, that's pretty tough going, but no. So I might have a triathlon. I think there's a couple of halves coming up that I might go out. There's some people who have invited me on that, so I might go along to those. And I might do, if I'm, depending on where I'm working, I might do the Isle of Man half marathon again. I've done that last year, which is a great race. I think it's combined with the marathon, but I'll just do the half marathon. And I don't know, a few little races, because as part of the training, I'll just go out. It's good to run on closed roads or with other runners, because most of my training I'm on my own, and it can get a bit lonely. But yeah, I mean, there's not many people who get up at 5 in the morning on a little island in the middle of nowhere who want to come out training with me and run the times I do and the splits I do. So I think it's almost conducive. I've got to do it on my own. So yeah, I don't know. I might see some races. I might decide to have a go. I know there's some local races. I think we're in the summer now where midweeks there's a few races. I think even here, depending on where I am, there's a promenade 5K relay. So I might have a go at that. I don't know yet if someone wants to join in, or there's some solo ones, but that'll be along, as the word implies. I don't know if people know, but a beach promenade. So no doubt it'll be windy, as it often is on beaches. So I might have a go at that. But
yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
No real plans as such. It's just a case of, God willing, I'll do the right training and get to Chicago. I'm really looking forward to that. I've got the hotel booked. I'm staying out there, like I've done with Boston, whatever. Make a holiday of it as well. I've never been to Chicago. I've got no idea. I know it's big. I think there's a few YouTubers who are out in Chicago, so it'd be good to meet up with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my next one, Katie. Chicago.
Yeah, and she said here you're chasing the majors, so good. Right,
yeah,
I've got
bizarre way. Yeah.
So I've got all of Donato's social links in the description below, so check him out. One thing we didn't get to talk about today in the time was going from the extreme weather and cold and snow to the heat of London. But I know you did a whole live stream chat yourself with a guy who...
yeah, with Sunil. Yeah.
You can watch Donato and Sunil on his channel, and you'll hear all about that and how they coped with that, because that is pretty mad. And it was the same story. You can obviously just check it out on Donato's channel.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we could do a whole live vlog on that, Rich, maybe next week. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it, but it was a good challenge.
Sorry, we had a little bit of a time delay there.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for coming on the channel, mate. I really appreciate your time to come and talk about all the things we've mentioned. So yeah, check Donato's channel out. I'll put an end card on as well, so you can click on his face. Also, if you subscribe to my channel already, there's a bell notification next to the subscribe button. So if you click the bell notification, you'll get notified when a live video comes up like this, and you won't miss them. Because I do have to do them at different times of the week because of my working hours. I can't keep it on a regular schedule, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and I shall see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.